So imagine this. Let's say you just walked into a room and let's say there was four booths lined up. Okay. Booth number one, it was a ketogenic diet and they had this big neon, sign and it was just like all the hype, everything like that. Booth number two, let's say it was intermittent fasting and the same thing, right? Big, huge sign, like all these different details to it. And then there's, booth number three, which is, let's just say, carnivore diet. And so, once again, big, huge sign, neon lights, everything like this, right? So, booth number one, keto, big neon sign. Booth number two, fasting, big neon sign. And booth number three, carnivore diet, big, huge neon sign, okay? And then we have the last booth, right? Booth number four. And let's just say there's nothing fancy about it at all. And let's just say it's just like a piece of paper and like a candle. And that's it. So instantly when you walk into that room, you're going to be more focused on those three different booths, the ones with the big neon signs, everything like that, and not really caring too much about, that small little booth with just a piece of paper and, a lit candle that's next to it. How I want you to really think about this is that, the keto, the fasting, the carnivore, and you can replace any one of these fad diets with another fad diet. There's millions of them and there's always going to be new ones every now and then, right? But what I want you to think about is that, at the end of the day, if you go to Google, if you go to YouTube, if you go on social media, right, there's always going to be a new greatest thing, right? Fancy lights, right? It's neon signs. Hey, do this. Best diet in the world, best supplements in the world, right? It grabs your attention, right? And typically when people are having these big, huge neon lights and, they're so, convicted, right? In terms of like, man, this is the best thing in the world, it starts to make you wonder like, oh man, like maybe that is the best thing in the world. Maybe I should try that also because of their conviction with how well they're kind of selling it and preaching about it and hyping it up. So now this is where I really want to start, getting into the midst of the mindset. Because obviously that you guys can see, hey, there's these big signs, right? There's all these different diets and everything like that. And you're probably wondering at this point, what does the candle and the piece of paper have anything to do with it? Well, I want you to think about it like this. Let's just say that, the neon signs, the diets and all that stuff, and you going on social media and YouTube and Google, it could be a little bit of what I like to say overanalysis paralysis, where, you see all these different things and, everybody's trying to sell you something, right? And it's hard to believe and trust, into what? Should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? And maybe you dabble in a little bit here and dabble in a little bit here, but you never actually fully commit. So you never actually end up getting any results. And it kind of has you at a place where you're kind of feeling lost, right? Once again, overanalysis paralysis, where there's so much information going on, you don't know who to believe, who to trust, and what is the best thing for you. But this is what I want you to think about. Let's just say that room that you walked into with all these, four different booths. And remember, three big, huge signs and one with a little piece of paper, right? And a lit candle. Let's just say that, for some odd reason, there was a huge tornado and the power cut off. Well, guess what? Those big neon signs, they're not powered anymore. But automatically, what is still lit? That candle. And let's just say that you walk up to that candle, right, and you look at the piece of paper, and the piece of paper is like very dialed in terms of like a step-by-step plan. Hey, maybe you should walk more. Maybe you should try to, be more active in terms of, lifting weights or doing some push-ups and sit-ups and maybe at home. Hey, maybe you should focus on eating more protein and sticking within a good, healthy calorie range, right, for your body type. Hey, drink plenty of water, make sure that you are monitoring your stress levels and getting plenty of sleep. Now, does that sound fun and sexy at all? No, right? It's not the big neon lights or anything like that. It's just, hey, a detailed out plan in terms of what you can follow. And we like to say this is called a lifestyle change, right? You're making lifestyle habits, something that is sustainable for you. But what I really want you to understand is that like that storm, that tornado, right? Something bad like that, a challenge, adversity, whatever the case may be, like that took out the power. And sure, right? Like There's no more lights in the facility. There's no more lights in the building, right? Which means there's no neon signs, anything like that. Everybody's probably, oh shoot, like what's going on? A little bit worried. But here's the thing. That candle is what's going to get you the missing piece of the puzzle, is what you've been searching for. And this is why I love this analogy so much, is because you can replace any one of those booths with the big neon signs and the fat loss and everything like that with anything really. It could be finances, it could be relationships, it could be, a new occupation, it could be your goals, it could be anything like that. And sometimes we automatically want to see the big fancy, neon sign and, kind of get lost in the sauce, so to speak. But we typically need those storms that kind of suck, honestly, at times. But it redirects us and gets our focus right back where it should be. I'm a big believer that in order to grow your faith, it's just like growing a muscle. You need to put it to the test. You need to put it through some adversity, right? Lifting weights, you are breaking down those muscle fibers. That's exactly what you're doing. And obviously through sleep and proper recovery, right? Like that is where it's going to grow back bigger and stronger. And maybe, life is throwing you at some storms where you thought you wanted this and you thought you wanted this. And next thing you know, you got hit with a tsunami and you weren't even expecting it. But maybe that's just going to redirect you to a better thing that's often for you. And at the end of the day, like nobody can predict the future. Nobody's going to know anything. But sometimes these storms are not made to just, make our lives worse, but it's more importantly made to kind of redirect us back. And when you're able to have that faith, when you're able to have that trust and just having this, belief system, I like to say unshakable confidence that at the end of the day, it's all going to work out in your favor. That's going to help you grow stronger, just like a muscle, right? And you want that, especially in your faith, because at the end of the day, when it comes down to emotions, if you're constantly going to be worried, constantly going to be dealing with anxiety, constantly going to be dealing with fear and doubts and all these different things, think about it. You're just going to be attracting that more into your life. And worse, you're going to be somebody that's also going to be producing more of that out, maybe into others. So working on your faith, working on your confidence, working on your trust in the unknown that, hey, maybe this storm, it ends up being a good thing for us that we didn't even realize. I'll never forget, I was watching a documentary on Netflix about, 9/11 and, the Twin Towers, being hit and collapsing. And there was a certain interview where this guy was talking about how he was in such a rush to get out of the house. He had this big interview presentation that he was going to give to all these different clients, and at the end of the day, like he was running late and he got stuck in this traffic jam and was like just super behind. And then, unfortunately, that's when the towers got hit. And it was in the same office building where he was going to be at. So once again, like in the midst of that storm where, this person is probably really upset. He wants to give this, special presentation. Maybe it's for a promotion, whatever the case may be. He's looking at it like, man, like I'm getting stuck with, this traffic jam. And I think he even mentioned about something happening to his car as well. And he just threw him completely off. He was probably livid. He was probably really upset, really pissed off because, he's thinking to himself like, man, I could probably get a raise or, whatever the case may be. Like, this is going to help me out in terms of my career. But that obstacle, that challenge of him running late and everything that was happening to him the morning of ended up being obviously something to save his life. So once again, like use that as just an analogy. There's always going to be some things that's going to happen to you that you didn't predict and you didn't probably want to happen to you either. So it's like sometimes those worst case scenarios and those storms ends up having a blessing in the midst of it. And that's where you need to have faith. That's where you need to have confidence that it's all going to work out in the end. So how does this apply in terms of, fat loss and mindset? Well, remember in the beginning, everybody kind of gets lost in the sauce. I should do this, I should do this, I do it, right? And sometimes you need those storms to just redirect you, right? Back to just, hey, that little candle that's lit and your eyes are more focused on that because at the end of the day, there's no light in the building anymore, right? There's no more neon lights with all the different diets and everything like that. It's just, hey, this candle that's lit. And you can find from there what it is that you're searching for. And maybe that's with your health and fitness goals, just some sustainable habits for your lifestyle. But how this applies next to the mindset is that, once again, storms are always going to come. You can't predict them, right? Nobody wants these storms to come, but you can always change your viewpoints. You're never in control of your very first thoughts. I'm a firm believer of that. You can see something on the news, you can see something on social media, and then it can have you triggered where you're feeling upset, you're feeling worried, doubts. Like, let's say if you turn on the news, and there's nothing but just like deaths, robbery, scarcity, recession, all this stuff. It could have you feeling worried and doubtful, but it's just like, at the end of the day, you're always in control over your second thought. So what is that second thought that you're producing? What is that second thing that you're thinking about in the midst of the storm? And hear me out. It obviously is a lot easier said than done, but this is where practice makes perfect. This is where, hey, the next time somebody cuts you off in traffic and you get pissed off and you want to flip them the bird, it's like, hey, instead, why don't you say a quick prayer for that person? Just say, I really hope that they're getting to wherever they're trying to get to safe and sound. That's it. Hope that they have no accidents, because at the end of the day, that person that cut you off, maybe a loved one was, in a car accident and they're in the hospital now and emergency room and they're speeding to get there. And it's like, at the end of the day, once again, everybody's dealing with problems. Everybody's dealing with storms. You never know what other people are going through. So take yourself out of the equation for just one split second, especially when something bad happens your way. Like a storm, like an adversity, anything like that, and flip the switch. And I promise you, when you start to begin doing that, you're going to start to grow that faith a little bit more, right? And it's just like a muscle. It needs to be tested. It needs to go through some adversity in order for it to grow stronger. And once you really start working on that muscle, that's when you're really going to start to develop, honestly, some unshakable confidence. So I really hope that you guys got a lot of value from today's episode. If you did, definitely give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment down below letting me know your biggest takeaway. And as always, guys, if you have not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, I would greatly appreciate that. Lastly, this has been Coach Joe with Heartletics.com, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Peace out, Girl Scouts.